communities as a result of this convening. So thank you. So we also want to give a special big thanks to Unity, the United National Indian Tribal Youth Incorporated, the oldest and largest Native youth organization in Indian country, for partnering with us, partnering with Nikui, partnering with the Youth Council, and supporting the Youth Council in their national campaigns that you will learn more about. Before we get started, I wanted to just let everyone know that during the presentation portion of the youth convening, microphones will be muted until we get to the discussion portion of the session, and you'll know by signs that will show us that. But also letting everyone know that if you have any concerns, or if you have any technical issues that arise through the convening, please put it in the chat box below, and we will address it accordingly. For those who calling in and you're not virtual, please just make sure that your lines are muted, and if there's a lot of background noise, just to please mute your lines to just be respectful for the convening to happen well. So thank you all for that. And with that being said, I want to introduce and have our Director of the Technical Assistance Research Center at the National Council of Indian Health, Kimberly, Dr. Fowler, to present herself, and also Lauren Ashley from Unity, Program Manager at Unity, and our Youth Council members who will also be presenting today. Kimberly?
Sorry, I was on mute. Good afternoon, everyone. We appreciate you joining our first National Youth Convening. I'm so proud of our Youth Council members who have really taken a lot of time to pull this campaign together with all of their hard work, and we're happy to share this information with you today. So I just want to welcome you for joining this Youth Convening, and definitely want to hear your thoughts and share your stories, and just hear from you today as well. So thank you so much for joining.
Lauren Ashley? Lauren Ashley, are you there?
Hi there, sorry. I was having technical difficulties. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's Sango Senaliosida. My name is Lauren Ashley Buford, and I am Yamasee Seminole from Florida, and we're really excited to be with you and partnering with you for the Unity portion of this training. And we just are really excited about seeing all of you really participate in this Indigent Wellness campaign, and we really look forward to hearing your feedback. And with that, I'll pass it on to the next one.
Thank you, Lauren, for the introduction. The council members?
So hello everyone, my name is Faith Bowman. I'm from the Stockbridge Munsee Band of Mohican Nation, which is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I am currently residing in Utah. and I'm one of the inaugural Youth Council members for Nikui.
Thank you, Faith. Don, are you back up?
Yes, my thing just let me back in. So everyone can see me now. My name is Don Vasquez. I'm a member of the Eastern Band of Cherokee in North Carolina, and I currently am in Dearborn Heights, Michigan. I'm sorry, my thing's been cutting out, so I don't know what else.
Oh, thank you for the intro.
What else?
Oh, thank you for the introduction. Shoshana, are you on the line as well?
Yeah, I am. Hello, everybody. My name is Shoshana Johnson. I am absentee Shawnee in Sac and Fox, and I am from Norman, Oklahoma. And I'm also an inaugural advisory council member. I mean, youth council member, my bad. Got the wrong councils mixed up.
No, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And Benjamin, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, my name is Benjamin Sandecki. I'm a tribal member of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma. I'm from Claremore, Oklahoma, but currently reside in Oklahoma City. So I just want to thank you all very much for tuning in today for this virtual youth convening.
Thank you. Thank you all for your introductions. Just to let everyone know, all participants who are joining, that if you have any questions at any time when we are in our discussion portions where you want to provide feedback, or you would like you have a question that as we're going through a certain section, please press the raise your hand option seen on the screen right there, and once you do that, there will be a little symbol, and I will show what that looks like for everyone. So if you look at the host, and you see by my name, I now raise my hand, and when I do that, then we get notified to then address anything that you might have. And next thing that I wanted to kind of go over is what today is going to look like on a very high level scale. Three things that will happen today is that you will learn more about the purpose of the National of Nikui's Youth Council campaigns and how to become an individual wellness champion, as well as using and understanding resiliency approaches that entail staying informed, understanding what strength-based wellness and wellness is, and maintaining wellness through tools and sharing those tools with others. And then our last portion of our youth convening will be Unity doing a training, a resiliency training session that will add more tools and more wellness aspects of best practices that you could take, that you could include in your communities and share with others to make sure that we all are well across Indian country. So with that being said, I want to pass it on to Dr. Fowler, who will be asking a few polling questions before we get started.
Thank you, Sabu. In just a second, there will be a poll question that comes up. So throughout this youth convening, there'll be polls that will be asking you. It's just a way for us to hear from you. If you're not able to actually verbally speak, you can always answer these polls by just indicating your response or even typing into the chat pod. So we're going to start with our first poll. And so through this convening, as I mentioned, we're planning to cover several topics. So this first question is actually asking you, how comfortable do you feel about discussing the concept of wellness with Native youth? So if you'd like to go ahead and indicate your answers and responses to that, we'd be able to see those as they come through. A second part to this question is actually asking, how comfortable do you feel about discussing the concept of resilience with Native youth? So if you have responses to share with us on that topic, we'd love to hear what you are able and comfortable with sharing. Thirdly, we'd like to understand, how comfortable do you feel about discussing the concept? How comfortable do you feel sharing tools to build personal wellness and resilience with Native youth? And the answer responses are very uncomfortable, uncomfortable, slightly uncomfortable, neither comfortable nor comfortable, or slightly comfortable. So if you could go ahead and just indicate or select your responses to that. Thank you so much. I can see those responses coming through. And then we also have a last question that it looks like most of you are taking these three questions that we have here on the screen. So we might be able to just pull in the last poll really quickly. And it's asking, how comfortable do you feel discussing the concept of cultural and community strength with Native youth? And this really is just getting at how comfortable you are with discussing and sharing with your peers about your own communities, as well as those that are allies with youth, how comfortable you are in sharing these concepts with them as well. We appreciate your responses. Thank you so much. And I'll just give it 10 more seconds so that everyone can fill in. Okay, thank you so much. At this point, I'll turn it back over to Sabu, who will now give you a brief background on the Nuku'u Youth Council.
Thank you, everyone, for providing us that feedback. It's really interesting to see, how when we're thinking about different aspects of comfortability around culture, more people feel at least slightly comfortable and confident, and so that's really cool. Something I noticed as people were filling out their polls. But to now get to a background on the Youth Council themselves. So the Youth Council are funded by the Connections Grant, but supported supported by the National Council of Urban Indian Health. The National Youth Council promotes peer-level awareness and support for suicide prevention, mental health wellness, substance misuse prevention, and trauma healing from trauma. The mission and vision of the Youth Council and what they aim for is to promote urban Indian Native communities in providing accessible resources and opportunities for American Indian and Alaska Natives, with the goal to empower culturally, spiritually, and physically Native youth and expand their minds, improve their health, and make sure that they develop wellness and do so in a way that while they still speak their voice. And they strive to do this to strive in reducing the mental and suicide burden amongst Native youth, and by building a global network, like such as these convening, in which Native youth can share and exchange ideas, knowledge, resources with one another, and really to make everyone well for the next 7 generations. So with that being said, I will now pass it to inaugural Youth Council member Faith, who will go over the purpose of the Youth Council's National Suicide Prevention Campaign and how to be an indigenous wellness champion.
Okay, Kulamasti, hello everyone. So again, my name is Faith Bowman. I'm from the Stockbridge Muncie Bantam Mohican Nation, Wisconsin. And I want to thank you for joining us for Enakuri, for our first and one of many Native Youth convenings. We want to give a big special thanks to Unity for partnering with us for this youth convening and for supporting our national campaign. So I'm going to talk about the purpose of the Youth Council and our campaigns that we're going to be sharing with you today. Okay, so the Nakui Youth Advisory Council, we're really at the forefront of the movement right now. We're trying to promote resilience in American Indian and Alaska Native youth. And as we mentioned, we will cover the purpose of the Youth Council campaigns, some resiliency approaches, and then Unity will provide us with some resilience training sessions. And so to begin, I wanted to give you the purpose of the Youth Council and our National Suicide Prevention campaigns. So as the Youth Council, it's our goal to give urban Native youth resources and tools that will empower them in their overall wellness journey. So this is including their spiritual, physical, and mental health. And so to do this, we wanted to address 2 of the biggest health issues plaguing our community right now, which is substance abuse and suicide. So in an effort to reduce the rates of suicide and substance abuse, we've developed 2 campaigns that aim to create a network of support for Native youth across the country, while also providing resources that's going to help one build resiliency and promote wellness throughout Indian country. So that brings us to what is resilience? So resilience is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threat, or any significant source of stress. And being resilient doesn't mean that you won't experience any difficulty. In fact, a lot of people experience emotional pain and sadness after suffering major adversity or trauma in their life. So the road to resilience is likely to involve a considerable amount of emotional distress. And, well, basically, there are many ways life may challenge you, and in some of those challenges, you'll carry emotional pain and scars, or even physical ones that remind us of the trauma. But it's how we carry on after those experiences that makes us resilient. So for me, I've had my fair share of distress, just from school alone. So I am a current PhD student, and for me, my road to graduate school was paved consistently with people telling me that I needed to make a choice. And that choice was either my community or myself. It seemed like I couldn't do both. So, I mean, this ultimatum that was kind of brought upon me in the process of applying to graduate school was due to the fact that I was super involved within the Native community on my campus. I was pretty much in every Native student organization you could think of that was there. I was meeting with higher administration at my university to improve the life of Native students on campus and to bring resources that could support them there. But I also was working 3 jobs and doing research just to meet the basic needs of what I needed to go to graduate school. And so my life was pretty hectic. But like the Native students in these organizations were people who are my friends, really like my family. And they had experienced their own trauma just from being in an institution that wasn't designed for your success. And so for me, having to choose my community versus myself was a very hard question. And I didn't want to choose. And I don't think I chose at all. In fact, the way I kind of moved past this was I leaned on my community so that they could help me get to where I am today, which is successfully in a PhD program and going into my 2nd year now. So I leaned on my community to help me care for myself. And even now, I still lean on them as I go through graduate school. And so if you or someone you know who's just like me and needed a community to lean on, that's exactly what our campaigns are providing here. And so one of the first campaigns that we did create is called This is Native. This is Native's goal is to provide and connect Native youth with Native youth-driven resources. And we do this by empowering Native youth to speak up because our lives matter, right? We want to show the world what it means to be Native because we're not a monolithic people. We're dynamic and we're unique. We all have different life experiences that makes us who we are. And by sharing what makes us who we are in the world and our community, we can inspire other Native youth like ourselves to keep carrying on by showing each other the ways in which we are resilient in our everyday lives. So for me, I stay resilient by going out in nature and connecting with nature, going on hikes, especially in Utah because there's just so much beauty here. Our second campaign is culture prevention. The goal here is to raise awareness on suicide and substance abuse for urban and tribal Native youth. And our objective is to train Native youth to make healthy choices in their everyday lives, but also to develop and disseminate culturally tailored prevention tools for suicide, substance abuse, and just overall well-being. So basically, we want to help you to build braids and bridges, not worries, and walls. So you've been armed with ancestral knowledge and the knowledge of your people and your culture. And even if you haven't, that's fine. There's a whole community to help you find it. But you can use what you learned to help you on your wellness journey because the Native youth, me, you, everyone on here, like we're the future of our nations and our community. And in order to help the future generation, we have to be here and we have to be healthy. So that's really the essence of what this campaign is for. And so with these campaigns, NCUI and other partnering organizations is sponsoring a national social media contest with the purpose of all Native youth becoming Indigenous wellness champions. And so now I'm going to talk about, well, what is an Indigenous wellness champion? So an Indigenous wellness champion is one who will embrace their indigeneity or Indigenous identity, let their culture be their armor that protects them when they need help. They'll help use various platforms to provide tools and create and maintain wellness and the wellness of other youth and their peers around them. They'll help promote resilience and wellness to future generations. and they'll use these resilience approaches in their everyday lives. So if you or if you know someone who wants to be a person that does all of these things that I've just said, or who is that right now, I highly encourage them to participate in our national campaign and social media contest. To get involved, it's really very easy. So all you have to do is create a social media post showing you using your culture, your hobbies, or with pictures of families and friends that promotes wellness and resiliency. And within that post, you just have to answer 2 simple questions. 1, what does it mean to be an Indigenous wellness champion? And 2, how do you stay resilient in your community? And then challenge other Native youth to join the movement and share what makes them resilient. So for me, this is an example of what I wrote. Like I wrote my name, my nation, what I'm currently doing, and how I stay resilient. And then I'm challenging you. How do you stay resilient? So then once you've made your post, you just upload it to your social media. So if you have a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I'm pretty sure you can link all of your accounts and it just goes on all of them. And then include in your post. We have a 2 braided campaign logo that's going to represent both This is Native and Cultures Prevention, and then just use the hashtags of our campaign, which is This is Native, Cultures Prevention, Nikui, and you'll be able to see the 2 braided images, which will be released soon. And then you just email your post to Nikui's national headquarters, and you'll be entered within the social media contest here. And I mean, this is just one way. Hopefully this is motivating you to get involved and to work on your wellness and health and to help others. But if you need a little more than that, there are some prizes as well for those that do enter. So you could receive a smartwatch bundle, smart water bundle, or some Indigenous gear. Who doesn't love gear? And hopefully you'll participate. Okay, and so this will run from September 10th to the 20th, and on the 29th you'll hear the winners be announced. If you have like any questions or concerns, you could always contact our communications and events, Meredith, or Spoo, who you heard at the beginning of this convening. We'd also like to say if there are any Native organizations that would like to support the Youth Council by sponsoring our campaign efforts, you could also reach out to our manager for communications and events, Meredith, or again, Sabu, who you've heard at the beginning of this of this convening. Contest is just in my head now. That's how awesome it is. Okay, and so so far we kind of covered 4 out of 5 of what it means to be an Indigenous wellness champion. So this includes, again, embracing your indigeneity, letting your culture be your armor, using various platforms to provide tools to maintain self-wellness and the wellness of other youth, and just the importance of promoting resilience and wellness to empower future generations. But one thing that we haven't covered is using resilience approaches. And before we go on to do that, I just wanted to ask everyone just a few polling questions. So the first one is going to be, what is the social media platform you primarily use to raise awareness of American Indian, Alaska Native issues, or share resources? So if you're like me, you may have many different social media platforms, but I just want to know, which one do you primarily use? Looks like Facebook is very popular. Oh, wow. Maybe just a minute or two. Looks like Facebook is really winning. Yeah, thank you so much for participating in this poll right here. We'll also have another question for you coming up, in which Sabu will walk you through.
Thank you, Faith, and thank you everyone for those answers, and just to get a better understanding of what are some primary social media platforms to use. I noticed that Facebook is it is one, but there Instagram and others are being used, so that's really good. Our next question, polling question we have is open-ended. And it is more of a question to understand what are ways, after learning about the steps of being an Indigenous wellness champion, what are some ways that you embrace your Indigenous identity, your indigeneity, and some examples, that working with youth, Native youth, is powwows and others. So being able to, and there we have it. The first answer is powwows, as I explained an example. But yeah, and it's whatever else you do is much appreciated. Just to share with others your ways of staying resilient is also part of being an Indigenous wellness champion, and which you will learn about later on today, what that part means. But it's good. Artwork, yep. Art is therapy. I agree. Sharing stories, yes. Sharing is very important. It's very healing. My family is Indigenous from outside of outside Indian country, but it's we also share stories, so it's a very important aspect of being Indigenous. Traditional arts, land restoration, restoring land relations, big fried bread. Yes, I love. I'm not native to fried bread, but I've learned. I've been introduced, and I love it. But yes, cultural ceremonies, huge. That's really good one. Definitely learn language. Language is very important. I speak to others, so I know, and it's important to make sure to keep that alive. Harvesting, yes, being able to eat healthy and eat in a way that is goes back to ancestral roots in a healthy manner, in a way that's empowering, I think is amazing. These are some really good answers. Elders Night, I've been around quite a few elders in my life, not native, but like within my own Indigenous communities, and they're always they're around, and the stories they share and the knowledge I gain from them is huge. Yeah, these are really good. I will now pass it over to, thank you all for these answers, and now we'll pass it over to Inaugural Youth Council Shoshana to go over resiliency approaches, specifically 2 steps of the 3-step process in resiliency approaches. And so, Shoshana, the mic is yours.
All right. Hi, everyone. This is Shoshana. As Faith mentioned, we have covered 4 out of 5 steps in what it means to be an Indigi Wellness Champion. We still have one step that has not been covered yet. That element consists of resiliency approaches and making sure we use them in our everyday lives. These approaches entail 3 total steps and include staying informed about wellness issues in your community and throughout Indian country, understanding a strength-based approach to wellness, and how champions maintain wellness. I will be covering 2 out of the 3 steps today. 2019 Youth Council member Benjamin, Mikui's Public Health Associate Sabu, and inaugural Youth Council member Adon will cover the 3rd part of how a champion maintains wellness. All right. So it is important. It is important to use as a youth council to make sure that Native youth stay informed and connected to issues that impact the wellness of ourselves, our people, and of one another throughout Indian country. When the inaugural council first had our in-person meeting, we talked amongst ourselves about what we wanted to accomplish during our term. Some said to bring awareness to educational opportunities that are specifically available to us. Some said to create a network for Native youth, which promotes resiliency through suicide and substance abuse education. And others said to bring awareness to health and wellness for Native youth. The thread that really weaves through all of these efforts is to bring awareness to important issues that affect our people. Learning about our past and how it impacts today is how we will learn how we can preserve our future. There's a saying I use all the time, and it says, you are a descendant of your strongest ancestors. So for me, that's what I think of when I say that it's important as a young Native person to be informed on the issues that impact our people. So why stay informed about Native youth issues? According to the National Congress of American Indians, more than 1.2 million Native youth are under the age of 25. That means that about 42% of all Native people are under the age of 25. This is significant because the current U.S. population has only 34% of people under the age of 25. These numbers matter because it really shows us how impactful we are and can continue to be. As a youth council, we are learning how important it is to mobilize our voice, to advocate for change, such as policy that provides more funding and resources to better support all of us. This was the case for Cherise Davids, one of the first 2 Native elected women in Congress. She made sure that she stayed connected and informed on issues and made sure that all of those who supported her was heard and did it proactively. So staying informed about Native youth issues. So that to me, it really means being aware of the disparities that impact our people and what type of discussions are happening on how to overcome these obstacles that we continue to face. 3 key takeaways from this graph are that suicide rates for Native youth ages 10 to 24 years old are much higher than any other race in the U.S. The rate of suicide for Native youth continue to be, or just for Natives, continue to be higher than any other race until their early 40s. And so this means that prevention interventions are especially critical for Native youth because prevention in Indian country means using our culture as a way to mitigate the health disparities that we can continue to face, accompanied with other protective factors that promote resiliency. Throughout my term as a youth council member, we have discussed how important it is to be an advocate for using our culture, something that is inherently ours as a prevention method, because like many other tribes, our culture is what gives us our identity and a sense of belonging. So in 2011, Native Americans had the highest rate of current illicit drug use at 13.4% among those ages 12 or older, compared to any other single racial or ethnic group. And illicit drug use is a risk factor for suicide. The overall rate for all racial or ethnic groups was 8.7%. So this data exists, and these concerns need national awareness raised across Indian country to make sure we support and uplift one another. And I want to circle back to this quote that's in the corner of this slide from the Urban Indian Health Institute. It says, "Don't come to us because you think we have the most problems. Come to us because we have the answers." So it circles back to this youth council wanting to create a space for Native youth to show what other Native youth populations are doing to be resilient through different protective factors or pro-social activities. For example, me and my little sister, wanted to end the cycle of substance abuse and suicide in our family. So we have both become very involved in different prevention programs and organizations to help bring awareness to the stigmas both issues face, because we know we aren't the only family that has gone through that. So one of the best action steps we took was to get more involved with our culture. And it's brought both sides of our families together, which is really special and something I never thought I would ever see happen.
So at this point, thank you so much, Shoshana. We are going to have a poll. So our next poll that's coming up, it's actually based on a lot of the words that Shoshana already talked about, but really trying to understand what your thoughts are on some of these issues that impact Native youth. So after going through these, we would like to know some of the issues you believe Native youth face in each of your respective communities. So what are the top 3 problems that youth who are dealing with substance misuse or mental health issues in your community face? What are the top 3 problems that you are facing when dealing with substance misuse or mental health issues in your community? Thank you so much. It looks like, and there may be 1 or 2 other responses down here. Right now, poverty and violence in the community are some of the top indicators that you all see in your community. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'll just give it a few more seconds to acknowledge your responses. And if there aren't an area that's listed that you think should be here, feel free to write that in the chat pod too as well. We'd love to hear some of your individual thoughts on this too as well. Thank you. Alcohol abuse and substance misuse. And I'll just give it another second to allow people to write in the chat. Thank you so much for participating in our polls. Lateral oppressive behavior and tribalism. Thank you so much, Linda, for sharing those thoughts. As far as the poll itself, top 3 indicators from what you all's thoughts are was poverty, violence, and physical or verbal abuse. Those are definitely some really heavy topics that are sometimes seen in communities, and so I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on that and understanding that, as Shoshana mentioned, if we have awareness of those things, then we can start to take action to prevent them and to avoid them. So with that, I'd like to turn it actually back over to Shoshana for her to continue for section 2 as well.
Thank you. So after going over some issues and concerns impacting Native youth across Indian country.
Oh, there's a second poll. My apologies. And this one is similar to the first in asking about top 3 barriers. So it's very similar, just kind of trying to understand what are the difficulties that Native youth in your community face in trying to get help. So really trying to understand what is it that we can do, especially at the national level, to support those in need that may be facing some of these barriers. So we appreciate your response on this as well. Oh, we have almost a straight tie. And once again, if there are other things that you'd like to share in the chat pod that aren't listed here, we appreciate hearing those too as well. And just to acknowledge, Ella mentioned a loss of Native identity as one of those top 3 areas that Native youth face. Not being taught or given access to language, culture, traditional activities. Thank you, those are really important. And it looks like as far as the top is concerned, the lack of family or community support. So that's really helpful to understand, and especially in your own communities and developing programs and opportunities for better support from the community and resources for families. Oh, and we apologize. We appreciate you listing your top barrier. It seems you're not able to select more than one answer, so lack of family or community support would be the top. So thank you so much for sharing. Now I'll turn it back over to Shoshana. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. So as previously mentioned, it is important that we stay informed on issues that impact the wellness of ourselves, of our communities, and of one another throughout Indian country. It is also just as important to use a strength-based approach to bringing wellness to our people and to ourselves. Research shows that making sure we incorporate strength-based approaches to address wellness concerns can also make a big difference in improving the lives of ourselves and all Native youth. So before you watch this short clip, please note of the positive practices used in this video.
In parts 1 and 2 of this series, we learn about Alaska Natives' fight for their land. In this part,
we're going to start the video right back over so that those on the phone line can also hear from the beginning. So I think we're ready to start over again. My apologies for that.
Hear from the young.
Sorry, everyone. There is a technical difficulty. So everyone can play this video, but when you do, it's individually getting played. So you will all see it in real time where you're sitting, in contrast to everyone watching you. So if everyone could do that for at least the first minute, that would be helpful, the first minute and a half, and then we'll ask you some questions in the next minute and a half.
And that's until the 2-minute point.
All right, so it looks like we have another poll for everybody to participate in. It says, what positive practices did you see used in this video? We mention again that there is no wrong answer and that all feedback is valuable feedback. Looks like there is tattooing to build resilience and reinstill cultural identity and pride. That's really good. She learned the cultural meaning of tattoos in her tribe. Reclaiming culture, traditional tools, and natural supplies. I like that one, yeah. Intergenerational healing. Yeah, because she mentioned her grandma was a little against it. Embracing her power, practice traditional dance. That's great. Okay, so we will keep pushing on. Thank you, everybody, for your answers. That was really helpful. So what is wellness? The term wellness has been applied in many ways. Although there might be different views on what wellness encompasses, the National Wellness Institute says that wellness is a conscious, self-directed, and evolving process of achieving full potential. Wellness is multidimensional and holistic, encompassing lifestyle, mental and spiritual well-being, and the environment. And lastly, wellness is positive and affirming. So what is a strength-based approach to wellness? It looks beyond the negative aspects and efforts of a disease or health disparities and instead looks at an individual's unique strengths and abilities. As Native people, we often characterize health and well-being more broadly than the absence of disease. For example, a medicine wheel contains the 4 elements of life: the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. These elements are intertwined to create balance within a strong and healthy person. But these elements extend beyond the individual. Good health and healing require a balance with other people, the community, and the spirit world. A study examined racial, ethnic, and cultural identity among Native adolescents and associations with behavioral health and wellness by analyzing quantitative data collected from a baseline assessment of 185 Native urban adolescents from California who were part of the substance use intervention study. Adolescents who identified as Native on their survey reported better mental health, less alcohol and marijuana use, lower rates of delinquency, and increased happiness and spiritual health. An increase of participation in traditional practices, specifically youth engaging in 10 or more traditional practices over a Native youth lifetime, showed positive associations of both delinquent behaviors and spirituality and happiness.
Thank you so much, Shoshana. At this point, we'll turn it over to our Class of 2019 Youth Council member, Benjamin Sendecki.
Hello, everyone. Like she had mentioned, my name is Benjamin Sendecki, part of the 2019 National Council, Youth Council. So today we're just going to talk about champions maintain wellness. So one way that we maintain the wellness is by being resilient. Let's see. Sorry, give me just one moment. All right, so far we have reviewed the 4 steps in taking action and becoming an Indigenous wellness champion. The steps included, number 1, embracing your indigeneity, and then, which kind of means Indigenous identity. And then, secondly, letting your culture be the armor that protects them and getting help when you need it. Third is using various platforms to provide tools to create and maintain self-wellness and wellness for other Native youth. And fourth, promoting resilience and wellness to empower future generations. So we also have covered 2 out of 3 parts of the 5th step in becoming an Indigenous wellness champion. And these parts include staying informed about wellness issues in your communities and throughout Indian country, and understanding a strength-based approach to wellness. So now we'll cover the 3rd part of Step 5 to become an Indigenous wellness champion. This involves Native youth maintaining wellness and sharing wellness and resiliency tools with one another. So I ask, how does a champion maintain wellness? And how that is done is by demonstrating resilience. So understanding resilience for American Indians and Alaskan Native youth. But what is resilience, and how does this help us maintain wellness? As we mentioned in the first section of the youth convening, resilience is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. Being resilient does not mean that a person doesn't experience difficulty or distress, and that in fact the road to resiliency is likely to involve considerable emotional distress. So how do we build resiliency? A combination of factors contributes to resiliency. Many studies show that the primary factor in resiliency is having caring and supportive relationships within and outside the family, and relationships that create love and trust, that also provide role models and offer encouragement and reassurance help bolster a person's resilience. And then several additional factors are associated with resilience, including making realistic plans and taking steps to carry them out, having a positive view of yourself and confidence in your strengths and abilities, and building communication and problem solving, the capacity to manage strong feelings and impulses. So what is resilience for Native youth? Cultural resilience is a relatively new term, but it is a concept that predates the so-called discovery of our people. Thus, resilience is not new in our people. It is a concept that has been taught for centuries. The word is new, but the meaning is old. And then why is resiliency important for the youth? Research has shown that resiliency is ordinary, not extraordinary. Resiliency is a trait that all people have. It involves behaviors, thoughts, and actions that can be learned and developed in anyone. And I think that's all I have to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Benjamin. Our next slide is actually another video that we'd like to share with you all. And I believe we're going to try to pull that up live so that we can share and listen together. And in the interim, we may have to try the strategy we used previously. So let me just pull the slides back up. And Mark has already added the link into the chat pod, and then we'll also be able to play it on your screen as well. It'll take a few seconds for the video to convert so that it shares on the screen, but you can also click on the link that Mark shared with you in the chat pod. If you just give us 30 more seconds, it should upload itself. Okay, you should all be able to see that right now. So if you wouldn't mind playing this slide, this video, my apologies, until the about 2 minutes and 10-second mark. And as you're listening to it, we want you to think about what facets of resilience were demonstrated by Gabe Stewart in this video. And then just let us know when you finish, and we'll be right here. Thank you. So it looks like quite a few of you have finished. Let's give it a few more seconds for those that are still listening. Thank you. So just following up on this video, we have a poll for you all. And after watching, what factors or what traits of resiliency were demonstrated by Gabe Stewart in this video? If you could just share your thoughts on what you've heard and seen in the video, we greatly appreciate it. Yes, so building their resilience and autonomy through community solidarity and harm reduction practices. Love it. Restorative justice and resilience. That was definitely evident by bringing the community together to support those in need. Remembering and having access to cultural needs. Thank you so much for all of your thoughts. This was definitely a really empowering video of showing how community can support one another. And other thoughts are that collaboration to promote success, yeah, coming together. Community support, utilizing cultural healing tools without placing blame. That's a great one. Oh, circles, not squares. Thank you so much. And I think, reconnecting to culture and utilizing sweats as a treatment. So in all of these responses, it definitely seems that community support, cultural and definitely resilience are seen through the actions that Gabe spoke of about the alternative way of supporting those in the criminal justice system. So thank you so much for those answers. So now I'd like to turn it over back to Sabu, who's going to provide us and go over some tools to build wellness and resilience for Native youth.
Thank you everyone for providing those responses. This video is amazing. I've seen it various times, and it is always it's re-empowering every time I see it. And so, like someone had mentioned in the chat box, being able to see restorative justice successes, especially in Native communities, is very empowering. Now that everyone has learned a little bit about wellness, resiliency from the inaugural youth and 2019 Youth Council members, we will now go over some strategies and tools that Natives can implement and help develop strategies around wellness and resilience. And so, wellness tools are different in different communities, and there is no one-size-fits-all when we think about wellness tools. Different tribes have different cultural practices, different traditions, different languages, and so and resilience in itself is, and it was stated before, it's multi-dimensional. So, for example, like playing basketball for somebody might be therapeutic, but for someone else, playing a musical instrument might be therapeutic. So, it's important to, as an individual wellness champion, to really self-reflect, explore, and find new ways to help you keep you stronger. Our inaugural Youth Council member Nikui's inaugural Youth Council member, Lala from the Pit River Nation, had shared a story about her tribe's ancestral run recently that she did, and it's a yearly run, and that run itself helped her build resilience and wellness. In a way, because she focuses on the run is more focused on her being able to strengthen her relationship with her community, but also helping their tribe heal and keep the culture going and continuous. And so this is just an example of how resilience can be different and the tools can be different for different folks. And so the inaugural Youth Council created and came up with a set of best practices, positive coping, wellness tools, resiliency and wellness building tools that are culturally relevant for natives across Indian country in a way that will help build each other's wellness, each of your wellnesses, and then also being able to share that wellness with others and making sure that youth for the next 7 generations are thriving, are champions. And so the first tool that was identified by the Youth Council was a positive coping tool called Ask Auntie that is provided by We Are Native. And Ask Auntie is a live portal with a native woman who is a mother who is also educated around working with youth and having her master's, I think, in psychology or PhD. And so having that and having someone who is relevant in someone else's community is very important when we're thinking about youth not sometimes having that elder, not having that that role model, not having that that adult that might be that they might need. So this is a way that youth could go ahead and ask any questions, anything that they might be concerning them, just advice. And so we will be sending out a PDF of this presentation afterwards to everyone who joined and who registered, with the link in the previous slide that leads you to these different tools. But you also could go to We Are Native portal and just type in Ask Auntie, and it's also accessible. And so the next tool that we have here that the Youth Council have identified is a resiliency tool that it's multifaceted, multi-purpose resiliency tool that Unity created. It's a smartphone application called Wellness Warrior app, and the Wellness Warrior app is it has various dimensions. There's a wellness tracker to see how you're keeping up with your health, whether it's steps in the day, whether it's your spiritual health. So there's metrics that kind of explain how in one day you might be feeling really good because you did some cultural aspects that were helpful, and then some days since you didn't do it, you might see a decline. So it's really trying to kind of put yourself in a place where you're keeping yourself accountable to be well. And then the other portions of the app is a food sharing app. There's a food sharing aspect of this where Native youth are able to share their indigenous Native dishes with others to show them how they're being a wellness warrior. And there's components to this app that create challenges. So if if you're able to show how you're staying resilient on a constant basis, then you could then gain a status of a wellness warrior. So there's these many challenges that keep you on your toes and keep you alert and aware of being well in itself. And so, really cool application. Unity will definitely be talking a little more about this in detail. Lauren actually just put her the link to the application below. It is also in our slides, but thank you, Lauren, for that. It's free and it's amazing. I use it myself, so it's a great tool. The next area of this tool of resiliency, of best practice that was that the Youth Council had identified was physical movement. So physical movement research has shown that if people stay active and find ways to use movement and exercising and things of walking and stretching on a constant basis, it reduces anxiety. It reduces levels of stress that it takes a toll sometimes on us. And so what constant physical movement does in a person's life, it makes it easier for you to get through a tough time. So I mean, as it was mentioned before, if you're going through something that is that's challenging, the less movement, the less exercise you do, the harder it can be at times when you're going through a difficult situation. So being active, finding ways to stay active helps with that. Also, breathing exercises also help, which will be discussed later in the slides coming up. And an application that the Youth Council identified as something that could be helpful in regards to this is an application called a smartphone app called Tabata, and the link to Tabata is on the slide in the slides above when we share with everyone, so you could download it. You also could Google it if you'd like. But it's just it's an application that has a set of different workouts that you could do anywhere. So you don't have to feel confined to like, oh, I got to work out in the gym, or I got to work out. It could be in your native lands. It could be at a park. It could be at your home. So really cool application to have local in your hand at times when you want to just ensure that you want to do something that helps you at the end of the day. And then I'm going to pass it on to Adon, who will be talking about meditation and what tools and best practices around it.
Hi everyone, Adon again. Like Sabu said, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about different meditations. Ones that you can do, like belly breathing and deep breathing and stuff like that. So typically when I end up going through something or something just really stunts me, I tend to get fed up or frustrated very easily. But then I tend to remember as well that nothing is really like getting worked up like that. So I typically turn to deep breathing or deeper belly breathing or meditation. So for this type of stuff, the most important thing to remember is that attitude is key. If you have an attitude that it's not going to work or it's all a bunch of mumbo jumbo and it's not going to benefit you, then it won't. And I'm speaking from experience. I used to do that. But like this slide says, you want to make sure that you're taking slow and deep breaths through your nose and out through your mouth. And then another key part to that is you want to make sure that you're filling up your entire diaphragm and emptying it out completely. By doing that, it's going to bring your heart rate down. It's going to start to take your brakes down, bring your stress level down. And then on top of that, it's also going to help your performance rate increase. And then another one is this Liberate. So this is a smartphone app that Sabu actually had introduced to me. But it's called Liberate Meditation, and it's an app made specifically for people like us. It's made for people of color. So it takes the aspects of of many of the other meditation apps, and it pairs it with familiar voices and sounds from people that come from our areas or in our little niches and stuff like that. For me, I'm not really into meditation apps per se, but this one, it's great, and it works wonders when you're trying to fall asleep as well. And then last but not least, so the slide says resilient school and cultivating gratitude. Another great tool, like it says on there, is just keeping a journal. And more specifically at this point, we'll talk about a gratitude journal. So you say once a day you write down one thing you're grateful for, and then a little blurb of why you're appreciative of that right now. And then by the end of the week, you've got 5 things. And then by the end of 1 month, now you've got 20 things that you can look back on and say, oh, I'm grateful for this. And it's really reassuring when you're going through a rougher time to be able to look back and say, oh, yeah, you know what, I am grateful that I have family in my life. I am grateful that I attend school. I am grateful that I'm able to get up and I have a job to go to and stuff like that. The way that I typically keep like a journal of my own is at the end of like my workday, I'll tend to write down what I did when I was there and what kind of things I accomplished. And then on the other hand, I write down what I could have done better or what I want to improve on the next day, just so I keep that in the back of my head so that I have it written down so that I remember it and then I can see it physically when I get back to work. And then before I go to bed, I think about what I need to do for like me. So it's like, okay, well, what do I need to worry about this weekend? Car insurance is due on the 13th, and I need to do laundry and pack for this. So I'm trying to do this before I go to bed because it helps me think about it once I'm sleeping. And then when you wake up in the morning, for me, it tends to, like, that's the first thing that my head clicks to do. So that's what I have. And then I'll pass it back over to Kimberly.
Thank you, Don. So we have another polling question. And so this polling question comes directly from what you've heard about these wellness tools. We've gone over some best practices, some positive coping skills, some resiliency building and wellness tools that you could actually use in your daily life. So we want to know what other wellness tools that you and or your communities use to maintain wellness and promote resiliency. So feel free to type into the polling pod, into the chat box. And even if you like verbally speak, you can always raise your hand. We'll try to keep an eye out for that too as well. So once again, the question is, what are other wellness tools that you and or your community use to maintain wellness and promote resiliency? Oh, I like it, the Calm app. It's a meditation app as well, but you only have to do it for 10 minutes a day. I think we all need that. Sound healing bath. I'd like to hear a little more about that and what that entails. But baths are always good and calming. Sewing circles, socials, youth-specific and led activities and surveys. Yoga classes, feeding. Feeding's a great one. It kind of takes your mind off of things. And culture classes. So whether it's hand drum, language, moccasins, having culture classes to attend. We also see someone responded with hiking, being in nature. It's always good to get out and breathe in some fresh air. Walking, drum circles, traditional dance classes. Thank you for sharing all of these. Language classes, coloring books. Yeah, adult coloring books are always fun too as well. Camp night. Girls and boys circles, so separate groups led by tribal member mentors that talk about issues, culture, and have fun activities and snacks. Oh, that's a great one for you. So being able to break out into respective groups to kind of talk about things. Cultural activities every other week throughout the year that include health and behavioral health. Oh, that's great that your community is providing that. And I think I may have, fishing. Fishing and support groups. Platform-based outreach, Twitter, Instagram, social media touch points. Also being able to be on other social media platforms. Yeah, that definitely can bring wellness to see what others are doing and kind of even have some gratitude towards their successes, right? Self-care. Self-care is definitely important in all of these things. And I think I saw one more come through. Cooking classes. Oh, that's a great tool, especially if your community is providing that, or even if you're doing it on your own. Being in the kitchen or in the pot is a great way to get your mind off things and kind of help you think through things too as well. And let's just take a peek in the chat box, see if anyone wrote in there. Not yet. But I truly thank you all for your participation, for sharing what you have found as great tools for maintaining wellness and resiliency. And there is I'm sorry. At this point, I'll actually close out this poll and see if there are any questions from anyone in the audience. I think we wanted to also go over the Youth Indigenous Wellness Champion launch time and timeline date. Sabu, were you going to come?
I could do it. I didn't. Yeah, I could do it. So the launch dates to remember and to save,
okay.
And you will be getting reminders and leading up to them are September 10th through September 20th. That's when the campaign is going to. That's the time frame of the campaign. Winners will be announced on September 24th. There is something that Faith did not mention that we will be doing also is the logo that you noticed with the indigenous person and the indigenous person with the braids. That will be an option of how to add a filter to your post, and that information will be released sure in the next weeks, a couple of weeks. And this September 10th is an important date because September 9th is AIN Wellness Day, Mental Health Awareness Day, Hope for Life. And so it's around that same time frame, so it's really important to Native populations. And so we wanted to honor that date with also having sorry, I just saw my screen do something crazy. With having this time frame as well in the campaign. But with that being said, if there is any questions in regards to the campaign or anything that you might have, please, you can reach out to me in my email that will be sent with the slide. And anything else, put in the chat box below. See how your communities could help support the campaign efforts. We are here to do that and to help Native youth. So thank you all.
And at this point, we have a first session from Unity. So Lauren, Ashley, I'll give you the floor.
All right, Istango, welcome everyone. Can everyone hear me?
All right,
Yes. Okay, So I'm really blessed to be a part of this Indigenous Wellness campaign, and I just wanted to give you guys some additional tools that Unity has to offer when it comes to strategies for wellness or resilience tools, just to get your guys' minds flowing. So as you become Indigenous wellness champions in the future, that you will have all of these great samples to kind of build off of. So real quick, my name is Lauren Ashley Buford, and I am the program manager here at Unity United National Indian Tribal Youth. We are the oldest and largest Native youth serving organization in the United States. One thing I wanted to point out that's really encouraging, a lot of times we hear, how big of an impact can we make? We're only a small group. This is all of Unity staff. We have total 5 people, and then we have a lot of people who help support this initiative, and it's all youth-based. So through the support of our partnerships and all of the amazing advisors out in the world, they're able to apply for these different opportunities for Native youth, and it helps them really focus on the development of their social wellness, their mental wellness, their physical wellness, and of course, the spiritual wellness of our Native youth. So in the future, hi Amy, I can't wait to see you in Alaska. Sorry, I got really excited about Amy's little post. Feel free to drop any questions if you guys have any in the chats below. The great thing about Unity is anybody can be a part of Unity, whether you're SAMHSA or funded, or maybe you're drug and alcohol prevention focused. The idea is that these are free tools that anybody can use, and we think it's a perfect fit to go along with the campaign that's happening right now. So if you take a look at your screen, these are the Indigenous Wellness Initiatives, the National Unity Council, the Unity Wellness Warriors challenges, the Unity Peer Guides program. We also offer different awards for Native youth, so 25 under 25, that really help build people's platforms for how are they going to reach out to the community and help Native youth in different ways. And then Earth Ambassadors is a really amazing program where youth find their resiliency through environmental services and getting involved in their local community gardens or things like that. So all of this information can be found on the Unity website. So today I really wanted to just touch base on how has Unity really focused on offering resiliency and wellness tools and strategies to help Native youth stay well. So the National Unity Council is a national network of Native youth that are comprised of these 10 geographic regions. So say you're a JOM program in California, you would have different people who would be resources to reach out and tell all the amazing things that you're doing with Native youth. So we really believe that digital storytelling is a form of resiliency. And we highly encourage you, if you are doing great things, we want to hear about it. What are you doing in your local community? What are you doing individually? Help share those stories to help empower other Native youth, right? So Unity can be found on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. And we really focus on training our Native youth on how they can use these tools to change the narrative of their own wellness, or to really reach out. And like you saw in the polls previously, a lot of people are using these platforms to really tell their story and become a wellness advocate in different ways. This is a map nationally. You can see we're gaining different youth councils to join our cause every single year, and how we're able to communicate with this network is through different digital media platforms. So every pin drop, we have a couple in Alaska. You can see we're working on trying to recruit more through the East Coast. But they're joining every day. Every pin drop represents different youth councils who affiliate with Unity. So of these hundreds of youth councils, they kind of help build what we call the National Executive Committee. So of the 10 regions, they'll select one Native youth to kind of be their voice. So this is the current executive committee, and one way that we're able to develop these amazing resiliency tools is from their feedback directly. You saw an example of the Wellness Warrior mobile app. Well, that came directly from this executive committee. Each year, the executive committee meets with all of their youth councils, and then they bring together what are the top 10 issues that Native youth are facing, and they choose to focus on one initiative each year to really tell the story of, hey, this is how we're going to address wellness nationwide. So one example of another hashtag, I know today you're really going to be engaged in how are we going to take the next step and become Indigenous wellness champions and use that hashtag. And I just wanted to show an example. Back in 2015, the Native youth that were involved in the executive committee, they actually created a similar hashtag, and it really blossomed into something amazing. So I really want to encourage you and just show you different ways where you can take a hashtag and turn it into so many different things. So we really look forward in how you're going to take this hashtag for moving forward as an Indigi wellness. I have to practice that so that you can really focus on all the different things you can do in your community. There's so much more to the hashtag. You can promote photo contests for youth to use the hashtag and showcase their different, you know, how they are being resilient and how they are being a wellness champion. But you can also, like this was a webinar. You can host your own prevention events. You can empower youth to do their own podcasts. You can really have them do interviews or share facts, anything that empowers Native youth to change the narrative around a certain topic. So this one with the I Will Live campaign, it was all about Native youth sharing their photos, showing strong Indigenous wellness perspectives, and encouraging others to share their stories. You can even ask youth to write their own stories of resiliency and how they overcame suicide prevention and what was there, what resources helped them come through. These are examples that all that came from the hashtag of I Will Live. And over the years, it's grown and it keeps going. So I really encourage you to take what you've learned today and think about what could you do? How could you take something like a hashtag and then move it forward throughout the community? So this is one example of how one youth group, the Tohono O'odham Youth Council, TO Youth Council, they took two programs that we had, the I Will Live campaign and then also the Wellness Warrior Challenge, and they made sure they hosted their own color run. So not only was it promoting physical wellness, but it was suicide prevention awareness through getting out and doing something positive. So spreading awareness and also being active in your community. You can see they had a great time. They're covered in color, and they were also engaging themselves physically. So this is just one example of how you can take what we've talked about today and you can host your own community event. Unity has a lot of different ways we can help. But the whole idea behind these things were how you create balance within your community. So it was really exciting to see how just a hashtag, it impacts Native youth. And we hear from Native youth all the time that it's empowering to get online and to see these positive messages and to ultimately change your narrative about what they're seeing in the community. So another program that Unity offers was the Wellness Warrior campaign. And like I explained before, the goal was how do you live a balanced life? So Native youth were showcased from around the communities, showing how they did all of their, how they actually found wellness within different things. You can see on here, we actually had the youth take photos of them doing whether it was art. There's Maddie Lamb, she's Muskogee, and she's attending a national college for the arts, or it was soccer, or even jingle dress dancing. And the whole campaign was really focused on how do you show that wellness is about balance, finding balance in your everyday life. So this is something super simple that you guys could create. I know poster contests are pretty common, but just taking that one step further and helping empower youth to say, like, I am an Indigenous wellness champion. This is something that you guys could pick up. And we had them we had them kind of share what really brings wellness to them, and that was really ultimately what led to our Native Wellness app. And we went around the country and gathered their input on what were the things that top priorities that they wanted to see. They wanted to see food sovereignty included. They wanted to also see a language portion. It was really cool because all of these ideas, we took all these ideas and then we went to our amazing app developer, and it's like, how do you put all this in one app? And it really was about 15 different apps all jammed into one, but we were so thankful for our funders who were able to bring those things together and make it happen. So everything you see on here, all of the content that's posted on these free mobile apps, they're actually from Native youth themselves. So all of the recipes, all of the words and the languages, all of the different photos and everything, it's a platform for Native youth to share their wellness. So as we move forward and you take your own photos and you help share this Indigenous wellness champions, we encourage you to upload them here to the app. Lastly, I wanted to share one thing that I really learned from being a part of Unity was that it's not only the youth who are doing amazing and are winning these leadership awards that are really the ones who have a lot to say about resiliency, but there's a new program that Unity is partnering with the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, and it's really going to be an awesome opportunity where we hope you guys will be involved. We selected 12 peer guides that will travel the United States gathering people's feedback on how do you best prevent Native youth from kind of getting involved in the juvenile justice system, but also we wanted to hear from the youth who may not see themselves as a leader, who may not say, I'm a wellness champion. How do you reach out to those youth who may be struggling, who may need our additional support, and get them engaged in a way where they can become their own self-advocates or help other youth who may be struggling with similar issues? So these 12 peer guides were actually selected because they had overcome things in the system, whether it was being involved in foster care as a child, whether their parents were arrested when they were really young, or maybe they just overcame different diversities and adversities in their communities. And they'll be traveling the United States to actually host their own youth convening that will gather youth feedback and voice. So they're really going to be national listening sessions for Native youth who have been impacted by the system in some way. So at the end of this 3 years, not only will all of these youth be trained on how they can become advocates to address these issues that they've personally overcome, but they'll also walk away with a sense of being heard. And then these cohorts will actually take those suggestions and publish them widely on here. This is what the Native youth are saying that works for them, that helped them overcome and really helped them be resilient. So I'm going to share some links in the chat right now, and if you get time, feel free. These links are here for you. Please feel free to give us your feedback. And some of the things that we heard when the peer guides actually had this survey done at the National Unity Conference, where there was over 2,000 Native youth gathered. They wanted to hear, what ways can your community better support Native youth? And one of our feedback, we heard our community can start a rehab center for drugs and alcohol that's free for everyone, or help our tribe overcome drugs and alcohol, a teen pregnancy, or other classes to help our community out. This is really awesome because the peer guides are able to take what the youth are saying and then send it back to those Native leaders who are involved. So just like this Indigenous wellness It was asking what are some of the root causes, some of the findings that we found of the 2000 youth, around 500 of them answered these questions. And it says, have you or someone you know been impacted by the juvenile justice system? And what we found was, even though these are our high-achieving youth who are doing great things and we see as our youth of the future, a majority of them have been impacted in some way. So we're really excited to partner with different Native youth and just really challenge everybody as you move forward and becoming an Indigenous wellness champion, that you really think about those youth who may be left out of the picture a lot of times or may not see themselves as a leader, and you hope to engage them in these beautiful tools in this campaign of really finding wellness in your communities. And really ask them, like, what would you say to Native youth who don't see themselves as a leader, who doesn't see themselves as a wellness champion? How would you engage them? And a lot of times the youth will come straight from, the answer will come straight from the youth. And let that guide you in different ways. So here's some of the questions, the answers that we got to the questions, but we're going to take a poll at the end of this to really ask you guys, what would you tell a Native youth who may not see themselves as a leader or may not see themselves as that next leader, as an Indigenous wellness leader or champion? How would you encourage them? And there's no wrong or right answers, but just I hope these resources help guide your next steps as you share these things with your communities and your Native youth. There's lots of links on here, so you can go back and look at all these different resources, but we really hope that you will take the time to look over these resources. And yeah, so go ahead and feel free to type what your answer would be if you were telling a Native youth or speaking with a youth who may not see themselves as an Indigenous wellness champion or a leader of their community. What would you tell them to help encourage them that, you know, they do possess the strength and that inner resiliency from our ancestors? This is a great one. I would tell them that I don't see myself as a leader, but I do see myself as someone who others depend on. For example, your kids or your brothers or your sisters. That is a leader, absolutely. Good followers are leaders in training. That's awesome. I mean, it's good to empower them and to help them know that at one point, every leader that you look up to in the community has struggled or has gone through something. And we are connected, you know, through so many different ways. So if you have time, please go ahead and fill out the poll, and then we also dropped the link in here if you'd like to complete the peer guide survey in its entirety. It's also in the chat. But lastly, as these answers keep coming in, I do want to just let everybody know that the peer guides will be taking all of this information and creating a training that will be over the next 2 years. We'll be visiting 6 different regions nationally, and it's a free training. So we hope to partner in the future with NCUI and other partners. So keep an eye out for it. Look at these amazing answers that are all coming in. I would remind them that they are culturally, we all had a role culturally, highlighting their strengths, pointing out ways that they may already be leading that they're not aware of. That's a great one. And that we are all leaders in different ways, brothers, sisters, being a good relative to each other. These are all ways you can encourage your youth to become an Indigenous wellness champion in the future. So with that, I'd like to pass it off to the next presenter, and I just thank you guys. Please check out all of our free resources to Native youth and everything that you're doing. Please continue the great work that you do. Constant affirmations and all of their blessings, absolutely. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Lauren Ashley, for all of those great resources, all of the links that you provided. And we are really grateful to you for supporting us through these ventures as well. The Youth Council is excited about some of the great prizes that are being donated by Unity for the campaign, and just being able to be a part of this convening and share some of the resources that you all have. So I wanted to close us out by actually having one last poll. You've seen these questions before, but we'd love to hear your responses at this point in time. And they are asking about your comfortability in discussing different concepts with Native youth. The first here is, how comfortable do you feel discussing the concept of wellness with Native youth? Now that you've heard all of the great information that was shared by the Youth Council, how comfortable do you feel discussing the concept of resilience with Native youth? Thank you for taking the polls. We appreciate it. How comfortable do you feel sharing tools to build personal well-being and resilience with Native youth? And if you could just take some time to take that poll, we'd really appreciate it. And then there's a last question here that's listed: how comfortable do you feel discussing the concept of cultural community support for Native youth? Thank you so much to all of you that have taken the poll. This will really help benefit us in understanding what you've got out of this convening. And I would like to just turn it back over to the Youth Council if they had any last thoughts as we're closing out into convening, any thank you messages that they'd like to share for you all in attending.
Hello, everybody. This is Shoshana Johnson. I just want to say how thankful I am for everybody who participated in the call today, and just for Nikui for giving us such a great experience over the past year. It's been a really great learning experience, getting to get to know other Native youth around the country, really, about what they're doing on how to stay resilient and keep their culture alive. So I've really learned a lot. It's been a really great experience, and just thank you. I'm glad that we got to share everything that we've learned so far.
And Faith, you had your hand raised if you wanted to speak.
Yeah, just like thank you guys for joining us today. We put a lot of work into it, and I really hope you enjoyed the content and will join our social media campaign. I'm really excited to see where all this goes.
And lastly, if Adon or Benjamin wanted to share anything.
Yeah, I'll start. I just, like everyone kind of said, I just want to thank everyone for attending today's virtual convening, and just want to congratulate the inaugural youth for all their hard work. I think it was very well put together, and thank you very much for leading and being a great example for my 2019 the Youth Council. So thank you very much for everything you all have done so far, and thank you to Nikui and Unity for today's presentation, and thank you very much for everyone who attended.
Thank you. I'd like to
It wasn't an honor, it was me. I just wanted to also I wanted to thank everyone, also all the youth council members, Unity, everyone at Nikui for working hard to make sure that this convening went as well as it did, and really just people taking the time to join and really sharing with one another, really incorporating individual wellness champion in real time. And so I do appreciate all of you all dearly, and I also, just like Faith, I want to see how all of this turns out towards our campaign down the road as it comes. So Kimberly, I'll give it back to you. Sorry.
No problem. Lastly, I'd like to mention that we will be sending out the PowerPoint slides shortly thereafter by the end of the week, but there are also web links here that we discussed throughout the presentation. So going to the Youth Council website to learn more about the work that they do, going to the Indigi Wellness website also to learn more about the campaign, and then lastly, the resources that were talked about in this presentation can be found on the Indigi Wellness Toolkit website that you see listed here. So these will be some quicker opportunities, if you will, to gather some of that information from the PowerPoint that we'll be sharing soon. Last thought for me are thank you all again for joining. We want to see all of your great pictures and videos and opportunities for you to share with this campaign. Remember, it launches on September the 10th, which is the Hope for Life Day for American Indian Alaska Natives for suicide awareness. So we hope to see a lot of these messages kind of filter through on that day, but also continuing through the 20th. So there's 2 weeks there to get you, your family members, your other people, your youth programs, to really be involved in this campaign. This is Native and culture is prevention. And like I said, going to the website, you can stay attuned to grabbing those filters that Sabu mentioned that could be added to your pictures. So that will be an easier way to share the hashtags too as well. So thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day. We thank you for staying with us this long.